You all join palms. I'm receiving. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. Braving it out in the rain. We're so spoiled here in San Diego. How's everybody doing? Huh? Is it coming in? You can show one, yeah. Thanks. The hook's on the bottom. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so anyone here for the first time? Why do you keep showing up? Why show up? Feel better after you leave. That's good. I'm glad you don't feel worse after you leave. It does happen sometimes, though, you know. What else? Why show up? Wisdom. And where does that wisdom actually live? Within yourself, for sure. Yep. What else? Why show up?
Helps remind me to be a better person, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of encouraging to do this regularly. Otherwise, it's easy to fall into habits that maybe I don't think are the most helpful.
You mean you have some unhealthy habits?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, I think you're the only one in this room that has unhealthy habits. The funny thing about unhealthy habits is we know we have them. We know what they are. We know we should stop them. Yet, it's just so difficult. Why is that?
Does it feel good?
Say again?
Does it feel good?
Because they feel good, for sure. Yeah. What else? What? Say again? Ego, yeah.
And self-attachment.
Self-attachment, definitely. What else? Why do you think?
They're easy.
They're easy? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Easy, for sure. Yeah. Crazy how it's like so difficult, challenging, hard to just be like nice, healthy people. Isn't that kind of weird? I find that really odd. I mean, I've been at this stuff a long time, and it's like it's still really, really difficult to just try to be nice all day. Like, I don't think that's gotten any easier over the years. You know, it's so difficult because it's so easy to just default back to the patterns. In Buddhism, we talk about conditioned behaviors and, you know, things that we have just trained ourselves to do over and over and over again. And it's really hard to cut that pattern. So for me, that's why I keep showing up. You keep practicing, you keep working at it every day, you keep cutting through some of that ego, you know, that pride, the things that we have built for so long in our lives that we thought were important. And to try to move away from the easy escape and into the more difficult practice. So, yeah. And to those of you joining virtually, welcome. Nice to see you all. Feel free to say hello, introduce yourself. We'll start with a meditation practice. For those who are new, maybe sitting for the first time, a couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. All right, you're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is it working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit, we're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion here at home, it does often help slide into the front third. Pushing the stomach forward allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, also trying to sit up straight. Hands can be on the knees, lap, whatever is comfortable. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means your leg hurts or you have an itch. You'll hear sounds throughout the practice. These are not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice Observing sensation of breath. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments of the practice. Just sitting. Breathing. Keeping the mind alert. Aware of each sound. each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath There's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. Most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's got nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. Here's a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. More reactions. That's it. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way we responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how we respond to everything else that's happening throughout our day. So all we're working on is closing the gap, where the way we feel now is closer to how we feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice, not necessarily fun. It's not the escape, although for many of us it starts out that way. It becomes something we turn to and we run to calm us down, to settle us down, to focus us, to help us feel grounded. But the real question is, why the need to run to anything? Meditation doesn't fix things. It helps you become aware of everything else that's going on in your life that needs to be fixed. So it's an opportunity to just sit. And just be. Which is something that most people have a really difficult time doing. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Just sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, say, and do. And that's the heart of the teachings. The very core teachings of Buddhism, the first thing the Buddha taught is that we all suffer. It's the first noble truth. We experience what he called dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction. We experience that all day long. I mean, there's happiness and joy and good moments are out there also. But none of you are here because everything in your life is happy and peaceful. Those aren't the things that we tend to worry about. We're here because of all the other stuff that sits heavy on our heart and mind, and we carry around with us for 6 hours or 30 years. So we experience a lot of discomfort throughout our lives. The second noble truth is, what's the cause? And the cause is our greed, our anger, and our ignorance. It's known as the three poisons. Real simple. We want more, we're greedy, we're angry at how things are, and we're ignoring the true nature of reality. Meaning that we see the world through our lens. Which is fine, except for the fact that every person you encounter, every moment of your entire life, sees the world through their lens. And my guess is those two lenses are not the same. Thus we have conflict. So we practice generosity to overcome greed, compassion to overcome anger, and wisdom to overcome ignorance. The third noble truth is, what's the ending of suffering? The cessation of suffering. Liberation, nirvana, going through your day and being okay. And then there's the path. That's the fourth noble truth. And that is the Eightfold Path. And the Buddha taught very clearly, being aware of correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, concentration. These are the 8 steps. And really, for me, that's all I've really ever cared about learning with regards to Buddhism, because that's hard enough. That's it. Like, I'm tapped out right there. I'm done. Focusing on those 4 practices and being aware of them, then breaking them out into the 8, And if you get into the morality practice, you break out the 5 precepts. That's enough. I mean, how many years are we going to be alive? That's just a lot to practice. So I'll pause there. I'd rather just open up to questions. Meditation, Buddhist practice. For me, I always really prefer just to respond to whatever's on your mind around meditation, Buddhist practice. And again, to everyone joining virtually, welcome. Good to see you all. There's a chat box there on your screen. Feel free to type in any thoughts or questions there, and I'll do my best to respond to that as well. So we'll use the rest of our brief time this evening just to open up to questions. Anything you're sitting with.
Hey, Jeff,
Yeah.
impermanence.
Yeah.
November seems to be a month where a lot of neighbors and relatives and family have passed away. A couple nights ago, one of my good friends growing up, he passed away as well. Just want you to touch a little bit on impermanence around.
Yeah. The question, and just to repeat for those virtually maybe didn't hear it, you said that November for you seems to be a month that a lot of people pass away. Neighbor, close friend of yours. And so to speak about impermanence a little bit, the Buddhist teachings on impermanence is really beautiful and also really painful. So there's the heaviness of death, loss. And in that regard, impermanence it hurts. As I said earlier before we started tonight, and I was talking about, my eyes are terrible, and I was talking about something, and someone asked me, why is it happening? I said, I'm getting old, and I said, the Buddha said, you got aging, you got sickness, you got death. So, I got 2 things after aging, right? And that's what's guaranteed for all of us, right? Birth, aging, sickness, and death. None of us can escape that. And when we resist that, we suffer quite a bit. Now, the thing with loss, especially for those who might be new, this idea of the teaching of impermanence in a very painful way, dealing with death and loss, impermanence doesn't mean that from the Buddhist lens that you're just supposed to be like, oh yeah, they died, cool. That's what happens. No, we feel the pain because we love them. We care about them. We miss them. We can't physically see them anymore. Those things hurt. They really do. And that's hard. So the Buddhist teachings on impermanence doesn't mean that death is a good thing. The Buddhist teachings on impermanence is that death happens to all of us. We cannot escape it. For me, the most beautiful teaching on death is that if we fear death so much for ourselves or others, then why be so afraid to live? People spend most of their lives afraid to live. And then death comes, and we're afraid of death. So we've been afraid to live, and now we're afraid to die. Drop the fear and just live. And then just die. It's just what happens. There's a sutra by the Buddhist teachings where someone comes to him and, lost their child and they wanted to bring the child back. And the Buddha says, please go to every house and bring me a mustard seed from each house where they have not known death. No mustard seed comes back. We all know death. It hurts. For me, it's been a great opportunity to recognize why waste life. And another, I think, beautiful teaching on this is Thich Nhat Hanh's practice of no birth, no death. In essence, that everything exists in our consciousness, so beyond physical form. So no birth, no death, everything just changes form. Right? When we lose people physically, we can't hug them, we can't say goodnight to them. But where do people really live? In our hearts and in our minds. So in that regard, they never die. They just change form. Impermanence is also a really beautiful thing. You ever been pissed off? Okay. It's a good thing impermanence exists. Otherwise, we'd spend our whole lives pissed off. You're really angry, you're really sad. You lose something and then you found it. Right? Everything changes. Every moment. And so our entire life, every single day, is just an absolute experience of the impermanent nature of all phenomena. Constantly changing. Our views, our perceptions, what we have physically, where we go, what we think, who we see. Our entire life is filled with change. Can we embrace that and welcome that? Are we okay with that? And many people are not. Many people are afraid of it. Which also fascinates me because this idea of impermanence, that everything is changing, for many people who are living in this really unhappy place, change can be really good. But we're often afraid of it. So very often people choose to stick in an unhealthy heart and mind because they're afraid of what would happen if they left that place. And that will just build up year after year after year. And then the day will come where it's your time to die physically. And you'll look back and think, wow, I was just always afraid. So don't be afraid to live. Don't be afraid to die. And don't be afraid to have hearts broken and tears shed when people we love pass. It's part of the game, you know? Yeah, just some thoughts. Other questions?
For this slogan that's on your lap buttons, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds.
Yes.
I feel like it's a lot easier. I mean, it's not easy to do good actions, speak good words. I can at least pause a moment and kind of oftentimes evaluate
Yes.
what I'm gonna do next. That seems like thoughts just kind of shoot into my mind without any, just instantaneously. So I was wondering what your thoughts on that are.
What are my thoughts on the fact that your thoughts just keep flying through your head? So the idea of think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds, this is in essence addressing very specifically our karma. The word karma means action, as the Buddha taught. We generate karma 3 ways: body, speech, mind. What we think, what we say, and what we do. Think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds, right? So the practice, and for me, the way I've always approached this is, not always, but very often, we think something, then we say something, then we do something. So the practice in reverse is, okay, if I'm going to think something painful or harmful, and then I'm going to say something painful or harmful, And then I'm going to do something painful or harmful or unhealthy, whatever word you want to use there. Make sense so far? So the first practice, and this is kind of what, if I'm hearing your question correctly, the first practice is I'm going to stop doing that. And then I'm just going to think it and I'm going to say it. Then I'm going to stop saying it. So I've stopped doing it, the unhealthy thing. I've stopped speaking it. But I keep thinking it. That's kind of what you're asking, right? Like, how do I stop that? I have no idea. Time, patience, practice. For me as a practice, focus every moment the rest of your life the best you can on not doing the things and not saying the things. That will cultivate different ways of being, different experiences, different surroundings, different places you spend your time, different people you're around potentially, right? And that will ultimately, maybe some things quicker than others, and some things very slowly and some things never, might begin to alter what you think. But for me, those thoughts, they're kind of, to say they're the last to go doesn't make sense because they're always going, but does that make sense? That's the hard part. And obviously the practice of meditation is to help with that. One thought of anger isn't necessarily that bad. But what does one thought of anger turn into? Spirals. And for how long?
Who knows?
Who knows? Endless. Years. So can we catch that one thought and come back to the present moment? That one thought might keep coming back day after day, month after month, year after year. But the training of the mind, and that's where meditation, often people see it as an escape. It's a training. You ever trained for anything? Ever known any training to be easy? Not really, right? Training the mind is the most difficult thing you have to train, but it's also the most important because it's the foundation of all the mental, emotional health in your life. So any emotional trauma, any emotional struggles, any emotional challenges you have all come from where? Thoughts. So when a thought arises, we're unhappy with this thought, we sit and we think about it for 3 hours. How do you think our mood is after 3 hours of thinking about something painful? It sucks. And then that 3 hours becomes 3 weeks. And that 3 weeks becomes 3 years. And then eventually you say, I've had enough. I need to go check out some meditation stuff. Something's got to help me, right? So those thoughts that we have, they become very dangerous. But the training part is thought arises, back to breath. In meditation, thought arises, back to breath, thought arises, back to breath. It's a constant. Like for me, I always use a metaphor of tug of war. You know, where you're pulling this side. Like there's a thought, boom, come back. There's a thought, come back. So when you're going through your day and you have a thought that's unpleasant, unhealthy, it's going to lead to things you say or do that are not so wise. Come back to the present moment. You don't get rid of thoughts by pushing them away. If you push them away, you're actually just feeding them. Can you see what's on the wall behind you without looking? No? I've done this example enough. Can you see what's on the wall behind you? No, why not? Not looking at it. Is it there? Does it exist? Yeah. But you're not looking at it. And when you want to look at it, you can turn around and look at it. That's like training the mind. Can we train our mind just the way we train what we look at? It's the same thing. And as many things in Buddhism, so much easier said than done. But theoretically, does that make sense? Yeah. So just spend the next 3 years staring at a wall, and you'll be fine. All right? Does that help?
Yeah.
Maybe not the 3 years part, but everything else.
No, it makes sense with like mindfulness.
Yeah. Yeah. Being mindful of present moment. When we are mindful of present moment, we're not wrapped up in all the past or all the future. The anger, sadness, depression of the past, the stress, anxiety, fear, worry of the future. We're not wrapped up in any of that. So, yeah. Tough. Yeah, and I don't necessarily, for as long as I've been doing this stuff, my thoughts haven't changed all that much. They really haven't. For me, the real practice isn't changing the thoughts. It's recognizing them and not acting on them and redirecting back to something else. Productive, healthy, beneficial. That's not about ego, pride, and self. Because that's usually what those thoughts are driven by. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions?
This may have been mentioned or hinted to, but I think that to go off your last point, I think a lot of that has to do with the wisdom that you possess. Just the wisdom I think as time goes on,
Yeah.
the wisdom also comes along with that to help guide your mind
Definitely.
in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's, the two wings of Buddhism they say are wisdom and compassion, and that, as we shave away, carve away, cut away the ignorance, then that wisdom begins to have a much more profound role in our lives. Definitely. The cultivation of wisdom is super critical. And so the wisdom view, the wisdom lens is super important. Definitely. And again, for me as a practitioner, it's always, we overcome ignorance with wisdom. So I'm pretty well aware of the fact when I'm being ignorant, when I'm doing something that's not healthy or not smart, or if I have a certain view that I'm attached to that's unhealthy, there's no wisdom there. It's just all ignorance. And so for me, the wisdom is the removal of that ignorance. But it's practice. Yeah. Other thoughts, questions? Do one more before we wrap up. Can tell if you were like, yeah, it was like,
I'll throw you a softball.
it was like,
Okay.
I saw the bubble thoughts above your head.
Yeah, well, I just don't want to say anything, so
Yeah.
let's just go through this one. We go through the 6 R's. And when you're going through the guided meditation, you use 2 or 3 of them. Can you go through the 6 of them really fast?
The which?
Like the return, when you get distracted and your mind is.
Oh, return to breath?
Yeah, or at least Travis goes through 6 of them.
He's way smarter than I am. He reads and studies and stuff. I just make shit up. Yeah.
In the room.
He's in the back there, yeah. 6 R's, help me out here. Return, relax. I'm just guessing now. Wait.
Smile,
How much, huh?
re-smile is one.
Smiles is not R.
Re-smile,
Oh, re-smile.
that's a Travis word, I believe.
Yeah. He's nicer than I am, too. What we got? You know the 6 R's?
Recognize the mind is wander, release distraction, relax tension, re-smile, return to breath, and repeat as needed.
Thank you.
Those are great.
I was going through that when I was getting distracted, but I couldn't remember the last one. Thank you.
Right.
I mean, I knew.
I'm glad I could help you out there.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, if Travis wasn't here, I would have been able to just make up 6 R's and everybody would left with all new 6 R things to focus on, you know. I guess I do kind of say most of those, you know, throughout without even really realizing it, but yeah. Yeah. Return to breath, return to breath, return to breath. It's you know, just watch, like, you know, as we wrap up here and you have the rest of the night, few hours or whatever you're going to do the rest of the night, like, just really watch, like, kind of back to the question, pay attention to your mind. It's something that we have to really make, I feel, a conscious effort to pay attention to what our mind is doing. Because when you come here or anywhere, it doesn't matter, for meditation or you're doing yoga practice or whatever it is, like, there's this really kind of driven attention and focus to, like, okay, I'm going to practice. I'm going to try to practice sitting and breathing, staying present, you know, whatever it is. But as soon as you walk out these doors, that's probably not going to be your focus. You're going to go back to crazy land, you know? So that's what we want to try to do. That's a great place for the 6 R's. Out there. Right? Can you bring that practice into everything out there? Because that's where all the madness is. I mean, the madness is really just in your head, but it gets triggered by everything out there. And in here, there's ideally, in theory, set up to be less triggers for you, to help you practice training the mind to be present. Right? Nobody just yelled at you. Nobody cut you off on the road. You know, there's no screaming baby. There's no, you know, annoying whatever. There's no boss yelling. You know, none of that stuff is happening right now. As soon as you walk outside, you're going to go back to that world. And that's where the practice begins. I'll close with this question. Eric's saying, hi, Eric. How are you redirecting your thoughts throughout the day? Can you provide a typical example? Yeah, so there's many things that you can do, and I think it's at first, at least for me, it begins with, what am I doing at that moment? So if I am working, which is what I spend 15 hours of my day doing, if I'm working and I have a thought that's just random thought, as we do all day long, random thoughts, recognize the random thought and come back to focus on the working. You know, you hear a lot of the mindful examples of if you're eating, if you're drinking tea, all these, you know, pleasant, beautiful things. But whatever it is you're doing at that moment and the thoughts arise, how did you phrase it? Oh, redirecting your thoughts throughout the day. When your thought arises, and it has nothing to do with what you're doing, redirect your thoughts back to what you're doing. So for me, the training of the mind is training your mind to concentrate and focus on the present moment, no matter what it is, right? So for me, it's as simple as, like, right now, you know, and I still go back to, like, Short Circuit, that old movie with, like, the little robot person. Like, Eric, the funny thing is, I know you and I've seen your face sitting here for years, but right now I'm staring at this little tiny camera thing on this tripod thing. But I'm seeing, like, Willy Wonka style, your tiny little head, like, on this little thing. And that's my focus. So with everything you're doing, you're just focused on whatever it is. You're aware of what's around you. You're aware that there's sounds outside, there's rain, there's people here, there's movement. You're aware of that. But as your thoughts start to trickle into those areas, you come back to the present moment of what you're doing. If you're working, just work. If you're walking, just walk. If you're eating, just eat. So use the present moment experience to come back to. So hopefully that's helpful. So I'll close on that. We'll join palms. We'll do a transfer of merit. Any merit gained from this practice be transferred to all beings in all directions. May any merit gained be transferred to the more than 6 million lives that have been lost during this pandemic, the family and friends who continue to suffer to this day, and to Paul during his time of rebirth, Venerable Ijur, and all the friends and family, and Martina who suffer at this time. May you all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So just a few quick announcements before you all head out. Our all-star host, David, is going to share a few announcements.
Hello, everyone. I am David, tonight's host. We have opened Dharma Bum Temple 50 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers. They are not looking for students. They are simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice with others. Just about every night, we have a different class led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sangha that meets several times a week for anyone battling addiction, drugs, alcohol, or anything else for that matter. A family sangha for parents, kids, toddlers, and teens, which currently meets once a month. And we also have a half-day silent retreat the first Saturday of the month, still RSVP required. No RSVP required. Everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and posted right outside the entryway above the shoe rack. We also have a lending library. If you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it and bring it back whenever you are done. Please straighten out your cushions before you head out. Thanks for being here. Hope to see you again.
And two more quick things just to add on to that are different than normal. We are returning to our food redistribution program, which we've had for 12, 13 years, where we prepare food that would have been wasted and thrown away, and then we go downtown and we feed people who sleep on the streets every night. So that will come back weekly starting January 5th, and it'll be every Thursday, 5 o'clock. But we are going to do a special Thanksgiving one, which we've done pretty much every year. So details will come out on that in the newsletter website, but we'll meet here at 10 o'clock. We're going to limit it to 25 people preparing food. So we'll prepare food from 10 to 11:30, and then we'll meet everybody else out front at about 11:30, and we'll all go downtown. We'll be passing out food. We've been collecting socks and hand sanitizers and some other stuff. So that'll be really beautiful on Thanksgiving morning for anyone who's interested in that. And then again, that'll start in January. And then if anybody who really loves the food redistribution program and wants to kind of take on a more committed leadership type role, we're going to have a meeting this Thursday at 5 o'clock just to talk about, kind of strategize for Thanksgiving and then in the new year. Just with the pandemic and COVID, we put it on hold for, it's been over 2 years. And obviously some things that we still have to adjust coming back into that program. So that meeting will be Thursday, 5 o'clock. And then again, we'll start Thanksgiving morning and it'll come back weekly. Because Thanksgiving, we typically get like 100 people. And I'm not a big fan of packing 100 people in the downstairs dining area. So we're going to limit that. So, and also we're exploring, if anyone is familiar with Recovery Dharma, it's a very specific Buddhist recovery program that we are exploring, and we may be starting as well. So if anyone's interested in that, let me know. So I think that's all. Thanks for being here again. Yeah, Travis, I forget. Oh yeah, thank you. And we're also, so, you know, after being closed for 18 out of 24 months, like we added new few things, and it seems like there's a billion things going on. But we're also going to start in the new year a Sangha social group where a lot of people come here as you do tonight. You come here, you sit, you listen to somebody like me ramble at you, you ask a few questions, and then you go. And that's great, but the food redistribution program was one thing that people really began to socialize and kind of form a connection and a bond and a community and a sangha. So that's one thing that we're going to start in the new year. We'll probably do it once a month where we do something on a Friday or Saturday evening or afternoon outside of temples. So maybe we'll go to like Deer Park Monastery for the day, or maybe we'll go to Balboa Park, or maybe we'll go bowling. I don't know, whatever. We're going to put a committee together. That committee will come up with ideas, and then we'll start doing social activities once a month, so people can actually just spend time getting to know each other, which is something we've literally never done here. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we don't have to cancel it 6 months in, but we'll see. Take care.